A ver, dice que según necesitan 3 fotos de cada manhole.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Dave Clark with ESI Consultants. It's about 5 till 10 right now. So we'll begin our workshop here in about 5 minutes or so. I have shared a screen. Hopefully everybody can see that. If you can't, just speak up and let me know. Thank you.
I can see it.
Great. And again, everybody, I see a few people are still signing in. So we're going to give this a couple more minutes, give people a chance to get logged on, and then we'll get this show on the road. Thank you. All right, good morning, everybody. My name is Dave Clark. I'm with ESI Consultants. Hopefully everybody can hear me and you can see I've shared the screen. If you can't hear me or you can't see the screen that I've shared, please let us know and we'll try to get that corrected. Morning, this is a second one of the kind of technical workshops for new DBE. It's an orientation workshop series that IDOT is putting on here in the month of October. And last week, we took a look at the standard specs, just a real brief overview of it. We looked into some plans and did some site visit information. This week, we're going to, as you can see in the screen, we're going to talk more about standard specifications, get into a little bit more about that spec book. We'll go into some of the standards that are available, some of the forms that you may be using, and the required documents, depending on whether you're maybe a consultant or a contractor. In some cases, consultants and contractors will use a lot of the same forms. But we'll try to go into those a little bit deeper. Again, though, this is just basically an overview, kind of get you acquainted, orient you with working with IDOT and the tools that you're going to need to be successful working with them. As I mentioned, this is a workshop for new DB orientation. It is standard specifications, standards, forms, and required documents. This is October 19th, and we expect that this will go somewhere between 10 to noon today. If it's a little bit less, a little bit longer, depending on questions and answers that we'll do at the end. It will just be, we're very flexible in doing that. I want to note too, if you look on the screen down here in the lower right-hand corner, there is a link there to the Eventbrite site. That's where IDOT is placing all of their workshops that they'll be doing. And we'll go to that here in the next slide. I placed that here. It's kind of a hot button that you can click on and it'll take you directly to that. There we go. So when it comes up, this is what you're going to see. One thing I would suggest is you might want to follow the site here. So that way you get notifications about different workshops that'll be upcoming. As you scroll down here, you'll see a list of a lot of the workshops that have already been posted out there. Today we're doing the standard specifications, standards, work forms, and required documentations. Next week, we'll get into some of this a little bit deeper. We'll talk about mobilization, material allowance, extra work, traffic control, and those types of things. You can see there's a lot of other workshops out here. There's QuickBooks, accounting things, navigating the website. There's some more QuickBooks. And if you click here, it'll show more. You'll see some of these say not yet on sale. There's no real cost to this. All these workshops are free, but as that little goes away, you'll be able to go in and register for those different workshops. So just take a look at these from time to time. Sign up for the ones that are going to best meet your needs. And you'll see these go through, I believe, the end of March. Yeah, so we got some out there. May not be some more added, but just keep an eye on this. Visit the website often and register for those workshops. Again, those are free. The only cost to you is really your time. And most of these are going to be held in the morning from 10 until noon Central Time. Okay. A little bit about what we're going to cover today. As mentioned, we're going to try to help you be able to find where to find the specs, where to find the standards, and some of the forms that you may need to be able to do business with the Illinois Department of Transportation. Some of these may be different if you're a contractor or a consultant, and in some cases, a lot of these will be the same types of forms and standards and specs that you will all need to refer to. Under the standard specifications today, we will go into a little bit more depth about what is in that standard specifications book, and we'll also do like a review of maybe a couple different specifications just to show that the difference of what we went over last week, which was a very simple one. We'll then go into the standards, show you where those can be found and how to use those. And then finally, we'll get into some of the forms and required documents that you'll be probably needing to use if you do work with an Illinois Department of Transportation. And you can see there are a lot of different sections there. We'll go over how that whole area works, how to find the forms you need, and point out some of the ones that will be very important to you. Okay, standard specifications. The one thing I want to emphasize again, as I did last week, I'm going to go to use this link here, and we'll go to the manual sales. The standard specifications book is something that I highly recommend that you get a copy of it. And with that, there will be actually two books. There'll be the standard specification book, and then there'll be the supplemental and recurring special revisions that you'll get. That is updated every year. If we scroll down here, you'll see, for example, for the 2016 one, it came out with that supplemental and recurring special revisions in 16. There's a new one in 17, 18, 19, 20, and 21. So every year you'll get an updated little book, and that book seems to get a little bit thicker as there are changes that are made. As you'll see here already, for the one that was approved in 2022, January, we had recurring special revisions 2022, which was an orange color, and the new one that'll be coming out here is the 2023. And in fact, you can actually look at it today online, but the hardbound book will be coming out at a little bit later date. But it's very handy to have this, especially when you're in the field as a contractor working on a project, to be able to refer to those if you need to. And the same thing for a consultant. It's really very handy to have that when you're out in the field, because sometimes you just can't get the internet connections and things that you may need to get the most updated versions of the spec book, or any manual for that matter. Everything that's on the IDOT website is the most current version that is being used. Along the lines of the spec book, I'm just going to say it again. You want to be sure that you're using the correct spec book depending on the project you are. There may be a few projects out there still, large construction projects that are ongoing that were let under the 2016 spec book. So if you're working on one of those, you want to be sure you use that specific spec book. Anything after January 2022, you're going to be using the new orange spec book. All right. I'm gonna go here now to the department's website. And just come back here again, down in the lower right-hand corner, resources. This is where we're gonna find forms, all of our manuals and guides, and our standard specifications. If we go to this spec book, open this up, and we're gonna delve into this just a little bit deeper today. Back here to the table of contents. There are several different divisions within the spec book. Section 100 is one that I would recommend that everybody read that section, 101, 102, 109, all those thoroughly. Those are going to give you a lot of the standard things that you need to be aware of and be prepared for in order to do business with the Illinois Department of Transportation. There are terms that IDOT uses. Those definitions of the terms are shown there. There's going to be a section that talks about the advertisement, bidding, how they award it, how a contract's executed. Scope of work, there's a section on the different kinds of scope of work and the control of work. The control of materials, how you can make sure you have the proper materials on a project. And then there's, of course, the legal regulations and responsibilities to public. There's insurance requirements that are shown in here. That talks about in section 105, we go back to control of work, what document supersedes what document. So it's very important to read, I think, every section here so that you understand what it's going to take to be able to do business with the Illinois Department of Transportation. So please, as you get your time, you get your book or do it online, read the entire Division 100 of the spec book. Division 200. This gets into a little different thing that's more specific to different pay items. You're going to find things here about earthwork, landscaping, erosion control, seeding, topsoil, sod, planting trees, mulching, putting down riprap, all those different types of things. And as I mentioned last week, when you have a pay item that you're looking at and you're going to bid it, look at the first three numbers. The pay items are all an 8-digit number. The first three numbers of that pay item is going to refer you to the section in the spec book that covers that pay item. So pay attention to that real closely. For example, seeding is a 250 number, and then there's 5 more digits after that. But here's where you're going to go under landscaping, section 250. And that's going to talk about seeding. So just keep in mind, you always look at that first 3 digits of any pay item. That's going to tell you what section to go to. Next division is subgrades, subbases, and base courses. So, this has to deal with the soil that you're preparing if you're working on that part of it. So getting that subgrade preparation ready for putting down a pavement or whatever it might be. In here it talks about different things, lime stabilization, concrete base courses, hot mix asphalt base courses, aggregate base courses. So depending on what you may be doing in your pay items, if you're looking at one of these, this is the types of things that you're going to find in Division 300. In Division 400, now we're getting into those surface courses, the final pavement that you'll be driving on. So some of these may just be an aggregate surface course if it's, for an aggregate roadway. Not that IDOT does a lot of those, but there are a few that they do work with on local agencies that may be aggregate surface courses. They have different things for micro sealing and cave seals, which are kind of special treatments for the maintenance of pavement. You'll find those here. Your hot asphalt mixes for binder, surface, all that type of thing will be found here. Concrete pavement, whether it's continuously reinforced, jointed, whatever that might be. You'll find stuff here about sidewalks and driveways. So just keep in mind that's what you're going to find in those areas there. They do have shoulders under that area too. And so that's where they'll cover hot mix asphalt shoulders, Portland cement concrete shoulders, aggregate shoulders, is all under that section 400 division. Next is your structures. This is division 500. This is where you're going to find information about bridges, culverts, sewers, utilities, and those types of things. Under bridges, you can find anything about slope wall, driving the pile, retaining walls, excavation for those structures, and so on and so forth. Box culverts are found under culverts. Also, pipe culverts are found there. If you're lining pipe culverts, that can be found there. And then, of course, you have your storm sewers. Talks about those, how you're going to install those. Maybe you got some that are jacked in place. There's also utilities for water main and those types of operations. And then miscellaneous stuff, bridges and box culverts. A lot of those have waterproof that are placed over the surface of those. That'll be found in this area. A lot of just anything, epoxy joint injection and that type of thing can be. Geocomposite wall drains is another item that's found here, but these are items that are all kind of associated with structures. And when we talk about structures, it'd be anything from box culverts to bridges, pipes, those types of items. These are all found in that division 500. Division 600. This is, they call it incidental construction. So, you know, a lot of the things here are things that maybe just doesn't fall under something else, but you're going to find stuff about pipe drains and catch basins and manholes. Maybe you're cleaning culverts, concrete curb and gutter, medians, concrete medians, those types of things. You're also going to find safety items in there. So these are things that here again could be guardrail, might be delineators, wood chain link fence, screening, impact attenuators, all those kinds of items. These are things that maybe didn't quite fall under concrete or hot mix asphalt, but most of that is putting down like shoulder curbs that are asphalt or concrete materials, woven wire fence, right-of-way markers, survey markers, engineer's field office, if you're providing one of those. And one of the sections here that we'll cover next week is mobilization. That is something that y'all need to be aware of and how that works and how to take advantage of that. All right, Division 700, traffic control. Talk about this next week also. But under this Division 700, you're going to find a lot of things about your different traffic control requirements on a project. You're going to find things about signs, sign posts, overhead sign structures that might go in place, but these types of things. Pavement markings also, so any kind of pavement marking, whether it's paint, epoxy, thermoplastic, those will all be found here. Any reflectors will be found here that go on a project. And then also how to move pavement markings and those markers. Division 800 is all electrical items. Now, this could be lighting, it could be traffic signals, all these types of things. But you're going to, in general, the first portion is going to be just general electrical requirements and what you're going to be required there. You know, wireway, conduit systems that you may use. As you get in further into that division, you know, there's going to be sections on lighting. As I mentioned, there's going to be sections on traffic signals, where you're going to talk more maybe about traffic control controllers, traffic actuated controllers, flashing controllers, fiber optic things, those types of items. You'll also find things about posts and foundations here that you have to have, signal heads, detector loops, and other miscellaneous items. And as we mentioned last week, we did hit a little bit on Division 1000. All your specs that we've divisions that we've talked about here already, 200 through 800. And you'll note there's no 900 at this point in time, at least. Division 1000, as I should say, gets into the materials. And so each of those other divisions will have a section that refers to the materials that can be used for that pay item. And you'll go back to this section 1000 for that. And it's broken down into cement and water and asphalt and aggregates and all those types of items. You see there's a bunch of those that are listed. You get into, again, different things for lighting, in terms of wire, cable, signs, reflectivity, all that type of thing. And then the last section is about equipment. Again, all the divisions prior to this, 200 through 800, are also going to have a section in there that refers to the equipment that can be used for those types of pay items that you're maybe bidding. And we'll dive into one of those here in just a minute. Those are your different divisions. I want to go to the back of the spec book. And there are some indexes in the back. And I've found these always very helpful in the past. There's a section here that is in alphabetical order. And so, you know, let's say you have a box culvert in section that you're going to place. And so you go down here under box culvert in sections, and it's going to tell you that that's in section 540. It's also going to tell you what page that's on. So that's also a helpful way to maybe find things quicker if you don't know maybe what the pay item code is that you're looking for. As we scroll on down here, there's also an index in alphabetical order, kind of just another take on how to do this. But, you know, for example, if you're looking for something on base courses, you would come in here under B, you'd look at base course, there's aggregate, hot mix asphalt, lime stabilized, soil cement. And if you're looking for soil cement base courses, you're going to go to page 165. So just a couple little indexes in the back of the spec book that can be very helpful. All right, so I did say I wanted to try to I'll mention also again, as I did last week, you buy one of these, the price is $40, and you will also get those annual update books with that for that $40. I think I'm going to pick, I think we'll pick something a little bit more complicated than we did look at last week. So we'll just pick on section 542, which is pipe culverts. And the reason for that is just a lot more materials for one thing that you can use for that. And I'm just going to make a quick search, hopefully, to take us there a little bit quicker. Here we are. If you didn't catch how I did that, up here in my upper left-hand corner of the screen, there's a little magnifying type glass. You click on that, a little box comes up here on the right on my computer anyhow, and you can type in what you want, and it'll help you find those different sections, help you find different items, that type of thing. So as I went through last week, and we'll go through this a little bit more because it's just a little bit more involved than the simple one we did last week, but each section of the spec book and under each item, one of the first things is they're going to give you a description of that section. And in this case, it's basically just a one sentence type of description. Some might be a couple lines, a short paragraph, but that's going to be the first thing that you're going to read there. Materials is going to be the next thing. And I know last week when we looked at it, I think there was like one or two materials. Here you can see, I mean, there are over 26, 27, 28, 29, 30 different types of materials that fall under pipe culverts. And it may depend on, is it corrugated steel? Is it galvanized? Is it aluminum? Is it pre-coated? Is it extra strength clay? Is it reinforced concrete? You get into the polyvinyls and polyurethane types of pipe. So there's all different kinds of pipe, and depending on the pay item, different ones may be allowed for that particular kind of pay item. And you'll see here that if you're, let's say, for example, we're using a polyurethane PE pipe with a smooth interior, tells me right here, what article section do I go to? I go back to that 1000 section, go to 1040.04, and it's going to give me all the information that I need about that specific type of pipe culvert. Pipe culverts also get to be a little bit more complicated because it gets into class of pipe and things like that. When a class of pipe is specified, the materials shall be selected from the following table. So, when you see a pay item and it says on there, this is class 3 or it's class 1 or whatever it might be, you're going to make sure you go to that to make sure, or, if it says class A, I'm sorry, class A, C, or D, you're going to go here and under, if it says class C, then it gives you a list of the types of rigid and flexible pipes that can be used as a class C pipe. So like I say, it's more complicated if you get into doing pipe culverts and so forth to make sure you're getting the correct type of pipe to put on that project. If you don't have the correct pipe, you're not going to get paid for it. So it's very, very important that you get the right stuff. And if I'm going to scroll on down, there's a lot of tables here also in this. And I think I can flip this. It's a little bit easier. So here again, not only do you have, a class of pipe, you've got a diameter of your pipe that you're using. You also have a type of pipe, and the type of pipe depends on, what that fill height is. So if it's a 1 foot minimum cover and less than 3 foot and less, you're going to be using a type 1. Let's say it's something that's 15 to 20 feet of cover, then you're going to go over here and that's a type 4. So here again, you got to be sure that you're looking at these tables. You look at, hey, I need a 24 inch. It's got a 16 foot height cover. I'm going to need a type 4 class of a pipe. So if you're ordering these from a supplier, most of them that are bidding IDOT work, they are very familiar with what IDOT requires. You give them the pay item and the description of that pay item, they're going to know exactly which one of these that you're going to need and if it's something that they provide. There'll be markings that'll come on these pipe, and the IDOT will be looking for that type of thing. There'll also be inspection that comes with that, and it's got to make sure that it's just the right class and type onto the project. All right, let me turn this back. All right. And you'll see there are a lot of different types. And actually, let's look at another one here. This is corrugated steel. You can see here again, it gets a little bit more complicated. Is it steel or is it aluminum? To what types that you may be using. You can see here there's not as many different kinds of types for corrugated steel and aluminum. And if we go on down here, we'll also get into the different plastic. So the different types of plastic pipes. Here you can see again, it's a whole different kind of a table. It depends on, what pipe it is. Is it PVC? Is it PE? Is it PP, CPP? Whatever it might be, and what things are allowed and what are not allowed for the different sizes of the pipes. Okay, let's put this back again. Under pipe culverts, as I mentioned, again, it gets to be a little bit more complicated. The methods of construction usually is going to be the next sections for any pay item. In the case of pipe culverts, there are multiple methods of construction. In this case, you can see here, there's a method 1, talks about removal, talks about trenching, talks about the preparation of the foundation, talks about how you lay the pipe, talks about backfilling in here. Then we'll get into, what embankment goes over the top of it. Where's method 2? Okay. And then we got a method 2, and it's a little bit different. Some of the things with method 1 applies to method 2, but then there are some different things in terms of the trenching and the backfill and embankment that apply for method 2. There's also a method 3. And it mentions here, these are like entrance culverts, shall be considered according to the following. Talks about their trenching, the preparation of backfill again. So there are multiple ways of constructing different pipes, and depending on what type the situation is. So you need to be very familiar if you're a contractor or even a consultant that's inspecting a contractor doing this type of work. They have a section on end treatments in here. So, whether maybe it's a metal end treatment for a metal pipe, maybe it's a concrete end section, a cast in place end section. They'll cover all different kinds of options that they would allow for the end treatments on a pipe culvert. Pipes also have elbows, T's, and collars that come into play from time to time. So that's also covered here. They have a section on pipe culverts that are temporary, ones that are jacked in place. And so you can see this is a lot more. If you were in the workshop last week, a lot more involvement in terms of how you have to construct and the type of materials and so forth that you can use. And then, of course, at the end, as in respect, it's going to talk about the method of measurement. And it's also going to talk about the basis of payment for the different pay items. So very important to make sure if you're doing whatever spec you're using, that you read it thoroughly and you understand totally what it's going to take for you to complete that type of work. Okay. So I guess at this point, I'll open it up. If anybody does have any questions about what we covered so far on the spec book, or anything that wasn't clear, go ahead and, unmute yourself, or I think there might be a chat box. I can't see the chat box though, so I don't know, Dave or Joelle, if you can see anybody putting anything in the chat, let me know.
Good morning. I did put something in the chat. I had a question about the pay item for transportation and logistics companies. It doesn't seem to be called out anywhere. How do we navigate that as a LTL box truck company?
So you're talking about doing trucking?
That's correct.
But yeah, trucking they don't really cover trucking in the spec book on that in terms of what those requirements are there. Usually trucking, a lot of times prime contractors will do their own trucking, but in many cases now they use DBE truckers to do that. And we talk about, we'll get into the website. We'll talk about some of the how to bid and estimate those things, and that might be more helpful at that time. Plus, I believe we're also having an actual trucking workshop later this year. So I would say that you're not going to find that kind of information in the spec book.
Okay.
All right.
All right. Thanks.
All right, and that was Cherry, right?
That's correct.
All right, thank you.
Thanks.
But we do, like I say, we do have some more in-depth types of workshops that'll be coming starting in November. I know there's the one about estimating and stuff, and we'll talk about more of the trucking type of thing with that. And then I believe there's also a trucking workshop that's going to be scheduled for later this year too. Maybe it might not be until 2023, but a part of that winter workshop series. All right.
Thanks.
You bet. Okay, standards. We did kind of cover this briefly, but I want to just keep kind of pounding it in everybody's head. Where to find that? You'll go down in that lower right-hand corner. This is kind of the quickest and easiest way under resources. learn more, there's a section here called Standards. Click on that. And what you have here, you have a couple different options. You have what's called the Complete Highway Standards in a PDF format. I'm just going to open that up. You can see the latest one's going to be effective January 1, 2023, which is a couple months away, really. And then you'll see the other ones here for the past several years that were being used. Which, if you bring that up, you're going to get all the different standards that IDOT uses. The area that I use the most and I find the most helpful is what's called the single highway standards, and they're in a PDF format. So if you're going to look at these, you're going to have a PDF reader that you can open them up and look at them. But when you open that up, then it lists these individually. And you can see there are quite a few of them that are out there. They will also list these on the cover page or maybe second page of the plans of what standards are being used for that project. You'll notice, I'm going to go up here toward the top again, but you'll notice every one of these has a 226 number. But then there's this 6-digit number here for the actual standard. So let's say you're doing sidewalk, and sidewalk, the pay item begins with 424. That's the first 3 digits. Well, you have that same kind of connection here with the standards. I can go down here, 424, and I'll highlight. All of these ones here actually apply to that sidewalk spec. So at 42401 is perpendicular curb ramps. All these are different kinds of curb ramps for ADA accessibility. So if you're doing ADA ramps, here's where you're going to go. And you can see there are 7 different types of standards that are used depending on the type of curb ramp and crossing that you have. So you got to be very sure that you're using the right one. If it's it's a corner, what they call corner parallel. I'll just open up one of these. This is what it kind of looks like. And in here, you're going to get a cross section and through the actual ramp, so you know what those slopes are. It shows on here what some of the maximum slopes are that you can have, cross slopes and so forth. It's going to show you kind of an idea where you would place your ADA warning tiles on these, and then how that aligns up, any curb that might be needed. For example, in the back here, here's a curb shown on this, and then they give a little side curb detail what those look like. If I go back, I don't know why it does this all the time, but it always does. You have to reopen it. Now here to 424, I'm going to find a perpendicular curb ramp. You can see a little bit different. One we had that we just looked at kind of came out here at an angle. Now this is perpendicular, and you have a crossing in each way. If it's an area that's flat, like the ADA tile goes up there exactly like that. If it's on a curve, then it's going to set back a little ways. And then there's also a maximum this can be. And if you exceed that maximum, then you have to put it parallel or with that curb, in line with the curb. Again, you got your cross sections here that shows the slopes and so forth that are allowed. In this case, there are actually, if I go to that, there shows that one when this is more than 5 feet. Here's how you have to put in your ADA tile. So some very specific things when it comes to ADA requirements anywhere in our world today. There's also a lot of general notes here. You want to be sure that you read those closely when you are bidding that. Some of these may also require a curb on each side. You can see here, no curb required, but here if there's a curb, that's going to have to be put in there. You're going to have to figure that into your cost. So depending on what kind of a standard you have to use for a specific ADA application, you want to make sure you know exactly what you have to do for that and what goes into it and how you're going to get paid. All right. Back to that again. And we talked about pipe culverts earlier. I'm going to just kind of show you here again. Pipe culverts are 542. Again, you got those are 542. And you'll see here there are multiple different standards that can apply depending on what you're using. Might be an inlet box, might be some end sections, might be metal, might be concrete, might be a pipe elbow or a pipe T. We'll just open up one of these so you kind of get an idea. I'll just open up the first one. This one is obviously a 2-page thing here. Again, when you're ordering precast concrete end sections from a supplier, they already have this. They're already certified. They're already approved with IDOT. In fact, you want to make sure you have somebody that's approved with IDOT. Don't be getting any kind of materials of any kind from a non-approved IDOT material supplier. Make sure that they are IDOT approved. But here again, I mean, this gives that manufacturer, say, if they're doing these precast type of form, what the requirements are. A lot of these, depending on the size, yeah, they may come out in sections, but most of them will come out in one big already precast section, and you won't need these little tie plates in many cases. See when revisions have been done on here. Here gives that manufacturer what reinforcement is required. It shows the reinforcement, how many layers it needs to be there, what the spacings are, all that type of thing, so that they can manufacture this according to the IDOT specifications and according to the standard. So that's kind of what one of those look like. And we'll go back to that again here. One other one I want to show you, and we'll talk about this next week in our workshop as we continue to expand on these kind of items, but traffic control. Traffic control is a 701 number. So here again, you can see anything that's got a 701 is going to be something that's traffic control. And you'll find here are an awful lot as you get more and more, depending on what kind of situation you have. Is this a 4-lane road with 2 lanes in each direction? Is it one lane with 1 lane in each direction? Is it going to be at night? Is it during the day? Is it just a shoulder closure or whatever it might be? And so we'll just open up one of these, just get an idea of what they look like. This is basically for a 2-lane road, 1 lane in each direction. It's showing that we have a lane closure. We're doing work here in these areas. So like this may be for patching. So you've got a patch here, got a patch there. You've got your symbols down here. So if you see this darkened dot, that means you need a flagger there. And you need a flagger at the beginning, a flagger at the end. And if you got an intersection in the middle, you're going to need another flagger here. So just knowing what the lay of your project is, how many side roads you have, where you're going to be working, the number of people that you need can be very significant in terms of your costs. So you want to make sure you cover your flaggers that you're needed. They're not going to be actually doing any work in terms of, ripping out a patch, putting a patch back, finishing it, whatever it might be. They're going to be there protecting not only the motorist public, but also the workers. You'll also see it shows here basically the signs that you're going to need. It gives you the spacing on those signs. One thing I'll tell you that when you're putting your signs out, you want to make sure that they're not behind something that people can't see. And if you have to move it, 50 feet, 10 feet, whatever, to make sure that it's visible, you can do it. These are just kind of like the minimums that you want to have. Also, and like in this case, if you have a side road that's coming up into the middle of a construction zone, you're going to have to put road construction ahead signs. There's some general notes here. Some of this depends on speed and so forth. And let's just open up another one here. Let's see. Let's do one for an expressway freeway. So here's a case where they've got 2 lanes in each direction. Closing down one lane. In this particular one, you're going to have the little thing. This is an arrow board, as you see down here. Your work area is up here. This happens to be a bridge. Shows you all your different signs, direction indicators of what these would be your barricades that have arrows on them. If you have impact attenuators, it shows where those will go here. This here's a barrier wall. So that's when you're going to put a temporary concrete barrier wall in there. And, you know, if there's one that's like for doing patching, for example, you're going to have your workers that might be in this work area that are not protected by a concrete barrier wall. You're going to need to have someone that's there watching their back. Yeah, sure, you've got a flagger back here somewhere, but you want somebody that's there watching their back when somebody all of a sudden forgets what they're doing and they come flying through all these barricades and right toward the work zone, that they see this coming and they can get the workers out of the way. So it's kind of a safety thing. And it just depends on what standard you have, what kind of work you're doing, and you want to make sure that you have the right signs and flaggers and barrier wall and barricades and everything that you may need. Okay. Is there any questions? I guess I'll just open it up again here at this point on standards. Free just to unmute yourself and ask. Okay, not hearing anything. And you moving on then. Forms and required documents that you may need. As I mentioned earlier, a lot of this may also depend on whether you're a contractor or a consultant. And in some cases, consultants, contractors are going to use a lot of the same forms. We'll try to hit on some of those as we go through this. Back to the IDOT site here. Again, forms found down here in the lower right-hand corner under resources. When you open that up, you have your forms tab. And this is, they've put this together in kind of an alphabetical order. So maybe depending on whether it's construction, it's design, it's materials, aeronautics, for example, you can kind of go by that way. And we'll go through each one of these. I'm not going to open up every one, but we'll just talk about what you find there. So when this opens up, it comes up with an A, and the one that's there is aeronautics. I'm going to quickly open that up because if you are doing something with aeronautics, and you can see they got a lot of their own forms, awful lot of them. This is different. Even though they're a part of the Illinois Department of Transportation, it's a different section within that. Aeronautics has their own requirements, and you know, it's just a different world to work in than if you're working on a highway, as you can well imagine. And then there's the Division of Highways, and that's where a lot of the other things that you'll use will fall under. So I go up here, we'll just look at things that are under each one. Under B, we have bridges and structures, business services. Probably most of us would not use that very often. Business and workforce diversity. I'm going to open that up because we're talking about DBEs and helping DBEs. And here's the area that you'll find a lot of the forms for the mentor protege program, the applications, the reports that you have to fill out. So if you do enter into a mentor or protege arrangement with a prime contractor, here's where you'd go to find those forms and to get that process started. And structures, probably more used by consultants than contractors, but there would be times I can see where you know, a contractor may use some of these items. You know, most of this REs or consultants that are doing inspection are going to be filling out some of their forms. Example, you know, the pile driving equipment data, soil boring logs that may be a consultant is using that's doing soil borings. There's just, like I say, tons of different things here that may apply. If maybe you're a consultant and you're doing inspections of bridges, there's also a thing here for load rating inspection reports. And I believe on down here, there's our other inspection reports for underwater inspections, special inspections, things like that. But you know, all your reports for your bridge inspections and everything will be found here. So not a whole lot of things that probably a contractor will use, but your consultants may find forms in there very useful. C, we have the chief counsel, chief procurement office, civil rights, communications. Most likely be not very often would anybody use any of the things here, but it's very possible. It might be some instance that you would, but the main one that you're probably going to be involved with is the construction one. And here you're going to find different forms that not only contractors will use, but a lot of consultants will use also, especially when they're doing phase 3 inspection. One of them I'm going to open up here, because next week we're going to talk about this a little bit, is the statement of material allowance. I'll open that one. Please forget this. Here's just kind of another little thing. With these IDOT forms, you may have to, you go to open them up, 31. You want to right click, and you would say here, open link in new Internet Explorer mode. Some of these just won't open up in the later Chrome and so forth applications that Microsoft has out there. So you may have to do that. When you do that, it's going to open up in a separate tab over here. So this is kind of what that form looked like. A lot of the IDOT forms today are PDF format. They're a fillable form. So if it's, you know, a gray box, these are the ones you can actually put something in. If it's one of these here and I try to put something in, it won't let me do it. But these are just some of the forms. The reason I want to mention material allowance, especially this past year, I've found where we've had different DBE contractors. One, for example, is guardrail. Okay. And guardrail is going to be one of the last things to go in. And let's just say it's even a bridge that is staged. And the first year we're doing stage 1, and the second year we're doing stage 2. Well, that guardrail is not going to go in until the very end of the year. And they start the project maybe in April, and the guardrail don't go in until now, October. And when you got your price from your guardrail supplier, they said this price is good for 90 days. Well, now what are you going to do when now the price goes up? And we know, everybody knows what's been happening in the last year or two with prices. So material allowance is a way for you to get paid for those materials up front. It can't be a perishable item, and it has to be stored properly. But you can get money for that up front. And this is something you're going to have to work with IDOT, fill out the proper forms, provide the proper inspections and receipts that you paid and all this kind of thing. But you'll get payment up front. And then when you actually install that material, they'll deduct what they paid earlier off of what you get paid later. But you don't have to worry about those pricing increases. Just wanted to kind of hit on that. We'll do that more next week a little bit too. Another one that you all need to be familiar with is this 1777 form. It's the contractor performance evaluation. Every contractor, every year, is going to get a evaluation made out on you. And it's extremely important. This is what the RE is going to do. They're going to fill out all the information about, you know, what your contractor number is, your name, everything about it, what project it was, and so forth. And then they're going to, depending on, you know, what kind of a category you're on, let's just say, you're doing seeding and sodding. They're gonna click that in there and they're gonna give you a rating. Okay, I can tell you right now, you don't want a 2. What you want is something that is 6 or above. Because these lower numbers are, are not gonna be, they're gonna hurt your pre-qualification if you're pre-qualified with IDOT and your ability to do work. So you always want to be sure that your work is up to snuff. It's being done by the spec. You have the right materials. You're getting it done properly. You're not late. All that type of thing. The other thing is they're also going to rate you on your organization and prosecution. So, arriving on time, getting the work done, getting it completed on time, getting out of the way, very important. Cooperating with people, other contractors, utility companies, the IDOT staff, making sure your traffic control right. They're gonna rate you on all these things: erosion control, EEO compliance, turning in your payrolls and your monthly reports in a timely manner. You're gonna get ratings in all of them. And like I say, you just don't want anything really less than a 6. You want 6s or above on everything, and that's what should be what you're striving for. So here again, I just want to point that out. I want to make sure that you're aware of it and know that you're going to see that after the first year, probably January, February of every year, you're going to see one from every project you worked on. And like I said, you just do not want low ratings. Okay. One of the other ones I wanted to hit on is this BC 22. That one, okay. Let's try it again. I will say while we're waiting on this, IDOT does everything on their CMMS system, which is an all electronic documentation and payment system. And so any approval, this is approval for authorization. I don't guess it's going to load for me for whatever reason. But one of the reasons I wanted to touch on this as a contractor or even a phase 3 consultant doing inspection work, it's very important to get these authorizations of contract changes turned in promptly. If you're a contractor and there's additional work that's being done, whether it's a cost plus type basis or whether that pay item, instead of having 1,000 units of whatever it is, it now has 1,100 units of that. Until this authorization of contract changes has been submitted and approved, you're not going to get paid for that extra 100 units. So it's very important that those things get turned in timely, get through the process, and get back so that you can get paid for them. And if you're a phase 3 consultant doing this work, it's important for you to make sure that these things get turned in properly so that you can pay that contractor. I would say never be afraid to ask that RE, have you processed an authorization? Because otherwise you could wait weeks or months to be able to get your money. The next one I wanted to hit is on down here a little farther. BC 57, if you're bidding on a project as a prime, you're pre-qualified with IDOT. This is one of the forms that you're going to have to fill out to get approval to bid on a particular item. It says it's loading. Very slow for some reason. Okay, it may take a little bit, so we'll just go back and I'll look at the next one. BC 255 is another one, and there it is, progress schedule. Let's see if it opens a little quicker or not. Okay, that one did come up a lot quicker. Here's the progress schedule. A lot of companies have their own software that they can make their own progress schedule, but IDOT's going to require a progress schedule for every project, something you're going to turn in before you actually get able to start on a project, something that's got to be approved by IDOT, And, you know, it's possible they could look at it, send it back to you, so you need to do this or that, or this doesn't work. But anyhow, here again, this is a PDF, it's a fillable form. You're gonna go in, you're gonna fill out the different things. With this one, they give you some instructions. There are a different amount of working days that are assigned each month. You'll see like in January, February, March, April, there are 0. That's basically due to the fact of the weather. You're just not going to probably be able to work during most of those months. Sometimes you can, but for the most part, they figure you can't. In May, they figure 15 working days, 17 in June, 17 in July, August 17, September, so on and so forth. And then when you get December, again, it's 0. So when you're filling this out, filling out any kind of a progress schedule, you need to keep that in mind. And then they also give you a bit of an example of what one looks like. So as you're filling this out, fillable form, this is kind of what it's going to look like. You're going to put in, you know, what the quantity and units are for those different things. You know, traffic control, one lump sum. You know, you're always going to have traffic control getting it set up. You're always going to have at the end final cleanup and punch list. Those are 2 items you always want to put in there. And then you're going to put in your major pay items that you're going to be working on. Okay. Okay, so the one did finally show up. This is that affidavit availability, that BC 57 that you're going to fill out. This one also has instructions with it. But you can see there's several parts to this that you have to fill out. Move it down a little quicker. I thought there was instructions at the end. I guess I'm mistaken. But it's pretty self-explanatory on how to fill this out. And, you know, if anybody ever needs help with that, that's something that our supportive services staff can help you with that. But basically what you're talking about, what the contract number is, who it's with, they're trying to determine how much work you have on the books that you're currently working on. If you're pre-qualified with IDOT, say for $1 million, and you have contracts that are for $950,000 that are currently active, and then you want to bid on a contract that's for $1 million, they're probably not going to approve you to bid on that contract because you've exceeded your financial pre-qualification. So that's kind of what this is all about. All right, if I go back to that list, there's another one. 260A is another one I want to just to open up and look at. This is, you know, if you're a prime or if you're a sub to prime, this is something that the prime's going to be filling out, turning into IDOT. Rid of that one. And basically, this is a request for approval for you to be a subcontractor on their contract. This is going to be reviewed by the compliance officer and other staff there at IDOT that will approve that. But basically, it's going to give all your information up here, what the project is, what pay item it is you're working on, what the value of that is. And at the bottom, the prime contractor will sign that. There will be a place where the IDOT also sign it and approve it. And then once that is approved, then that's what you will be approved for on that project. It comes into play down the road. So just kind of keep in mind that's a form that's going to get filled out. Let's see. Let me see if there is a couple others here. Let's open up this one here, the inspector's daily report. This is a Word document, so you don't have to go through that. You know, this is something here again, this is all electronic these days, but there may be a project, but it gives you a little bit of an idea of what that inspector is going to fill out on a project, whether you're a contractor, if you're a consultant. You know, this is the kind of information you're going to have to be able to put in there. But they're gonna be measuring these things. You need to measure with them daily. Be sure you coordinate with that inspector daily on the quantities and the units that you're getting paid. They're also gonna have things out here that says optional about evidence of material inspection. They're probably gonna put stuff in here because they should be, and if you're the consultant doing the inspection, you should be checking to make sure they have the right material on the project. And you know, what is that evidence of material inspection and entering it in there. So just beware, make sure you not only are getting the quantities placed properly, but you have the right material, because if you don't, you're not gonna get paid. Okay, I don't think we need to discuss that one anymore. Let's see, I think there may be another one. Yes. Well, we're gonna talk about this a lot more next week, but extra work on a project. A lot of, on the IDOT side, a lot of people, we refer to this as force account work. But this is basically extra work, cost plus work, or maybe you got an agreed unit price that you agreed to with IDOT to do this additional or work that was not in the original plans. So this is something that's also filled out daily. So if you are doing extra work as a contractor, you want to make sure that you work with that, whoever that inspector already is on the project, that they fill this out. They're going to have all the information about the project. You know, it'd be your name here as the contractor. Let's say it's report 1, it's today's date. What's the authorization number? Aha, remember we talked about authorization and getting that approval. You want to make sure that they've sent in an authorization authorizing the funds for this extra work. If they don't, and they're waiting until you send them a bill, it could be weeks and months before you see money for this. If they put something in there, at least there's money then that we know it's approved, and they're going to give you a pre-approval. You're going to have in writing approval to do the work before you start doing extra work, or don't do it. Otherwise, there's a very good chance you won't get paid for it. But here again, that's where this authorization number in. You know, it's very important that they processed an authorization and they got approval to do this work. You're going to be putting in all your names of your workers, what their classification is, how many hours they worked, straight time, overtime. You're going to put in what equipment was used, how many hours it was used, and any materials that were used. And then you're going to also sign this as well as the state representative. And then when you build your force account bill, and we'll talk about this next week, you're going to use these sheets to construct that invoice to give to IDOT, and then they're going to check it according to these sheets, because each of you should have a copy of these. But just something you need to be aware of if you're doing extra work is this BC 635 form that's filled out daily. Okay. Move on here then. We'll go into D. Data collection, maybe if you're a consultant doing traffic data collection, stuff like that, this might be useful. Design and environment, this will mainly be used by consultants also, items there. You'll notice here, many of the districts, District 9 doesn't have any, but almost every other district, it looks like, has their own special forms. Let me just I'll just pick District 5 here. And you can see they have some special forms that they like to use. There might be, some of these are going to be like for permits and stuff like that. Say maybe you're moving some equipment or something, or maybe you're doing some work next to a state highway. Special sheets that you have to fill out. If you're a consultant and you're doing, say, like phase 1 work for them, there's a couple things they like to use. They call them screening, special waste screening, and your environmental survey request screening forms. Those are very helpful to know, hey, what am I going to have to do? You know, stuff like that. Fill those out, turn those in, and they'll give you more direction if needed. But you can see they got different forms they like to use. I'll just go up here to District 1, and you can see they just got a lot more of them. So depending on, you know, who you're working with, what district, you may want to check to make sure they don't have a special form. I do notice, just looking at this here in District 1, They have some ADA, what they call ProWag forms. There's one there. Here's another one here about project alert. I've never used these. Here's an inspection summary. I'm just going to open that one up. Yeah, did it again. Back to that. Oops. We'll be getting the wrong one here. Sorry about that. Back here, and we'll open this up again. Okay. Back to that, and we'll go to that District 1 one. I say, I think a lot of them will have their own forms that they want you to use. Inspection 3. Gotta remember it. Always do the right click, open Internet Explorer. Hopefully here one of these days, IDOT will get this to where it opens up in all the different Microsoft web browsers. So obviously here's a form that you're going to fill out in the field. What marked route it is, what kind of a crossing is it? Is it a cross street, corner leg, crossing direction? You know, what type of facility? So these are forms that are going to be filled out into the field, but just keep in mind they got their own forms here. Again, it's a PDF, it's a fillable type form, and they are fairly easy to use. Doesn't look like they have any kind of instructions with it other than maybe what they've written here. But if anybody has any issues with any forms with IDOT, just let us know. Back to this, we're going to go up to the design and environment one here. This is one consultants more likely than not will be using a lot of these different things here. Contractors may have to fill out some information for, say, example, borrow site, waste use sites that they're maybe having. But a lot of these things are going to be directed toward consultants and work on phase 1 reports, for example. Regulated substances, stuff like that you may have to deal with. If you are, you've got a project, been selected by IDOT to do a project, there's several forms you're going to have to fill out. One example is what they call a CECS form, or one of these forms, depending on are your raises anniversary, they fixed raises. DLM, IDOT just really doesn't use the direct labor multiplier anymore. They use what they call a cost plus fixed fee. So you're probably going to either use a 3604 or a 3608 form. That you might use, that you're going to use in front of your negotiations, is a BDE 436 direct cost form. I'll open that one up real quick. Here again, it's a PDF fillable form, but basically any direct costs that you might have, if you're staying overnight, you have per diems, lodging, stuff like that, you're using your own vehicles or renting vehicles, or you're paying people on mileage, or stuff here for that. You'll notice also it tells you to refer to the Governor's Travel Control Board. This will give you the maximums that you can charge for some things. Some of that might depend on whether you're in the Chicago area or maybe you're down in the Effingham area, for example. Rates on travel may be slightly different. You'll have things in here for, you're doing a public meeting, you have some kind of advertisements that you're doing for IDOT. If you need traffic control inspection for, maybe you're inspecting sign trusses or bridges for them, or any other specialized equipment that you may have. You put that in here, and that way, and that'll get approved. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to bill for it. Some of the others that I wanted to hit on. Oh, 10. So if you're a consultant, this checklist for phase 1 can be very useful. Just kind of gives you an idea of some of the things that you're going to have to be able to do in terms of if you're submitting for an environmental survey request. So this is kind of the checklist that IDOT overall uses, but it's we looked at District 5 there a minute ago. They also have their own little checklist, and their checklist expands on some of these things a little bit more, gives you some websites to go to and things like that. So I can say that the District 5 checklist can be very useful and can probably be very useful in any district you work in. But if you're not working in District 5, I would use this one and maybe just pull up that District 5 one if you are looking for a little more clarification. Okay. This one here is going to be for contractors. Here again, if you're going to be bidding on a particular contract on a letting, you're going to have to fill out this form. This is basically requesting to bid on that. And I'll say, you don't, on every project, you do not have to be pre-qualified with IDOT. There are some small business initiative contracts. Usually there's one or more on every letting where you do not have to be pre-qualified in the categories, that kind of work, to actually bid on it. So you're a small business and you qualify as a small business, you can bid on, you don't have to be pre-qualified, but you're still going to have to fill out this BDE 124 form. And, you're going to put in there, here's the items. I want to bid on item 27, 126, 79, whatever it might be. You may not have to do that BC 57. If it's those small business initiative projects, you don't have to do that. That's only for the others where you are pre-qualified with IDOT. You're going to put your information down here about your company, and then where to send this to. You're going to send this in. I think actually on this page here is where you have your instructions. You're going to send it into this email address here, and then you'll get notification back whether you're approved or not approved. I mean, it's possible you may not get approved for some reason. But like I say, if it's a small business initiative project, you don't have to be pre-qualified, but you will have to fill out this form if you're going to bid on that. Okay. Going back to this 2350. I'm not going to open it up, but this is consultants, your employee utilization. So, if you have a project that you've been awarded, you're going to have to fill this out as part of your negotiation package and send that in. It's under a different group. So we'll cover that one here a little bit later. We've already talked about the CECS forms that are down here, these 3604, 3608. Invoices, as a consultant, if you're doing invoices, depending on, what kind of project it might be, I'm going to say it's probably going to be the BD 430. Let's just see if we can get that to open up for us here. A minute ago, they didn't want to open up. Doesn't look like it's going to. But anyhow, you have a special form that you have to fill out, and it's not opening. All right, so it's going to look something like this. You've got your instruction tab. That's the first tab. You want to fill these basically out in order. I mean, this ends up being really your first page, but you do your progress report first. Here again, it's a fillable. This is an Excel document, but it's fillable. If it's gray, those areas where you can enter information into. all your information about what project it is, what the date is, what the month ending was, what your invoice number is, so on and so forth. This is going to calculate your percent complete. There's multiple ways you can probably fill it out, but when you fill it out, this will, and you put in the numbers in the gray, it'll come up with project complete, and then that'll get transferred over to this tab here. You have another tab here that a lot of this stuff you got to put in again here. Like I say, anything that's gray, that's where you're going to fill in. Here, this will get automatically put into the form. You're going to list each employee, their classification, their hours, any overtime hours, what their rate is, so on and so forth. If it is a premium thing, overtime premium, that gets put into direct cost. And I go to that next tab, where that'll show up is right up here in this first line, overtime premium, direct cost. It'll put that total amount right here. In this area, you're going to put in any mileage, any vehicles, any lodging, any special equipment that you may be using, and what that rate is, what the quantity is, and then it's going to calculate those total dollars. All of this then gets transferred to this sheet, which really ends up being your first sheet. Again, anything that's in gray, that's stuff that you're going to fill in. And if you had a previous invoice, you're going to put the date in here, how much was invoiced, so on and so forth. But anybody has questions on any of this, if you're a consultant, that's something here again that we can help you with. What's in the yellow are going to be the things that you get on your approved contract from IDOT, and you'll fill in what those maximum numbers are. You cannot exceed those maximums unless you have a supplement to that contract in that particular area. So just keep that in mind. Again, any questions, let us know. All right. Okay. We go on to the next one here. It's investigation compliance. None of us want to be involved in any of that. I'm not going to even get into that at all, but I don't think anybody's going to probably have issues with that. So we'll go on to L. In L, we have things for land acquisition, legislative affairs. Probably none of us are going to be involved with that. And we have local roads. If you are someone doing land acquisition for IDOT, these areas here are ones that may be helpful for you in terms of filling out the forms that they may need, different templates that they require. But the other thing, local roads is probably another one that's going to be mainly consultants. Not too many are going to be filled out by contractors. And I don't not go into a lot of those. A lot of it just depends on what kind of a thing they are. If you're working for a municipality, you may have a resolution that you're doing under motor fuel tax or whatever it might be. But you not only do you have to get the approval for using those forms, they also have to pass a resolution as the city council, or village board, county board, whatever, that they have put those dollars out there and signed them to that particular project. But again, if you're a consultant, there could be a lot of different things, or a lot of local agencies forms in here that they're going to be filling out. If you're working for a local agency, yeah, there may be several of them that you may have to use in working with that particular local agency. And you can see there's a lot of different things here that may come into play. All right. On to M. This is the Materials Bureau. Again, most of these are probably going to be used by the RE, IDOT themselves, any consultants that are doing things. Some of the things that, like as you're a consultant, if you're doing braking cylinders for them, you're going to have to fill out a form. For example, this right here, this 1654 form. This will open. And it's opening, but on the wrong page here. You move it over. Okay, so there's a couple of these kinds of forms that if you're a consultant that you may be using as you do work, you're pouring concrete, things like that. You're going to have to put in what your test results and so on and so forth. Keeping these up to date as you go along will save you time in the end. But there's a couple forms like this for concrete. There's asphalt testing forms for density, soil testing forms for density. So if you're a materials inspection company, there might be several forms that you would be using here in the materials section. But here again, a lot of these are going to be things that you're going to be using as a consultant on a project doing phase 3 work. You may also find that there's some districts have some special material forms that they want you to use, and that's probably going to be found under D and under that district. All right, continuing on, operations. Operations is like the maintenance. Most of this is going to have to deal with permits and stuff like that that you're going to have out there. If you're a contractor and you're moving heavy equipment, wide loads, things like that, you're gonna have to work with IDOT to be able to move those on state routes and where you can move those. You're going to have to fill out your permits or maybe bonds and things that you have to also provide them before you can get the permit to haul those loads. So if you're a contractor, there are probably some things in here that you may be using. Access agreements, maybe you need to have a special access while you're doing some work. So there are some things here that, as a contractor, you may have to work with them on. All right, under P. Probably not too many things here, really. Personnel management, that's not going to be something any of us are going to deal with too much. Consultants, maybe more than anything, may be interested in planning and programming things that are going on, but most likely probably not too much. That's going to be mainly used by IDOT. All of you are probably should be interested in their multi-year plan, and that can be found on the IDOT website, and that's kind of put together by their Office of Planning and Programming. Each calendar year, there's a new one out there now for FY23 to FY28, and it kind of gives you an idea of what projects are coming up in the annual year and what projects are what they refer to in the out years. So that's another thing that be a good thing to be familiar with and how it works is their multi-year plan. Under R, research is not something any of us are probably going to be involved with unless maybe consultants have a project doing a specific research for the department, and then there may be something here that you may need. Under S, safety programs and engineering, that might be something that consultants may use if they're working for a local agency and they want to access some funding through a safety program. Office of Secretary, probably not so much there either. But small business enterprises, there's one that you're going to be using. And that will be whether you're a consultant or a contractor. And there's a few of them I want to kind of hit on here. The 2025 form. This is something that you're going to fill out. You're bidding to a prime contractor. It's downloading. But as you bid, this is something you have to fill out and submit to that prime contractor. That prime contractor then is going to fill out, and we'll just go ahead and maybe go down and see if we can get that one to open. This one's still loading. Maybe? Nope, went back on me. All right, try this again. 26. Yeah, I didn't hit the thing. 26, right click. It's not allowing me to open and, all right, so I'm not gonna be opening it here. But this is something, oh, there's a Word document for it. Maybe it'll open. We're not gonna be able to get it, doesn't look like. For some reason, they're not loading. But anyhow, these are the forms you do have to fill out if you're gonna be bidding on an IDOT project to a prime. You're gonna fill out the 2025, you're gonna submit that to them. They'll look at it, they're gonna decide, basically which ones they're going to accept as your bids. They may have 2 or 3 different contractors that are DBEs or subs that may bid it and bid it cheaper. And so, it's just, you gotta fill it out, send it into them. The prime's gonna decide who and what project, which ones they use. And then they'll fill that out as part of their 2026 and in terms of their DBE utilization plan and submit their 2025 forms with their bids. SBE 48 down here. See if we can get this one to open. I did. Don't know why the others didn't, but that one did. Anyhow, every week you're going to have to submit a payroll if you're working on an IDOT project. There's also ones for trucking, and those are something we'll cover in the trucking workshops that we do. But here, I mean, basically, you're going to put what that name of the individual, all their information about, any numbers they have, hours they worked, how much they were paid, everything like that. You may have your own reporting system for payrolls, and that's fine. That can be used. But if you don't, here's something that you can use and fill that out and then send it in to them. I think maybe if you're using QuickBooks and you have all the right software with that QuickBooks version that you have, I think you can also print that out for you. There is this. Thought there was also, well, there's the weekly DBE trucking report. Open that. So we have a trucker on today's. Hopefully it'll open. It's downloading. Coming is it? All right, well, we'll go on and maybe that one will come up here in a minute. The other one that I want to open up is this DB 956. This is your equal employment opportunity workforce analysis. Is that one, evidently? Get rid of that. Let's go back to this. That's not going to work. Let's see if it's going to. Well, it's bound up on me, saying it's trying to load that. Let's go back. Let's be 956. This here is a Excel document. You're gonna have to fill this out every month, turn this into IDOT. These are one of those things that you don't get these turned in timely, your payrolls aren't getting turned in, they may hold your pay. So be sure you're prompt about turning these things in. And there is a bit of a grace period. I mean, it's the end of the month. You're not gonna get this probably in the next day, but if you do, that's great. But they'll give you a little bit of a grace period. But you're gonna put in there all the different people you have, different categories that they're working in, how many are male, how many are female, how many total minorities are male and female. And then you're going to even break down those minorities even further as to what they are, any apprentices or on-job training that you have fill that all out. And then you can see there's page 2 on this, where you're going to put in yours. So it's just something you gotta fill out and get turned in, and to be sure that you do it properly. And it is an Excel document. Maybe you got your own form that you can use, as long as it covers everything. I'm sure that'd be fine. But you also want to be sure that it has all the IDOT information on here, and when it prints out, that'll be, this is a form so-and-so, probably revised such and such a date. So make sure you have the latest version. That's why you go to the IDOT website to always get their latest versions. Okay. All right, that's all of them under that I really wanted to hit, but you can see there's several things, and there may be some of them that apply to you as a contractor and or consultant. Oh, one other thing I do want to point out, if you are a DBE, you want to be sure that you fill out this no change affidavit every year. Otherwise, could get decertified, and we definitely don't want to get decertified. And I think it's opened up. It is a PDF, it's a fillable form. You can see there's not much there. It doesn't really take that awful long. But it is required that you submit this every year and get it turned in. So when that time comes, fill it out, turn it in promptly. I mean, I know they'll give you some warnings on some of this, but if you don't turn this in and you let it lapse, you will become decertified as a DBE. So just keep that in mind. All right. Next one, really, the only thing there is transit. There might be something there. We have never really done much with transit, so I'm not really that familiar with this. So unless you're doing work, I think in the transit area, there's probably not too much. And again, they would be a little bit like aeronautics. They're kind of a whole different little area from the Division of Highways. Okay. So that brings me basically to the end of the information that I wanted to try to put out there today for all of you. We're about an hour and 40 minutes into this, so we're right on schedule. I don't know if there's anybody that's got any questions, if anything that we covered. You can open up your mic and ask your questions at this time. And Joelle, I don't know if there's anything in the chats. If you choose me, see, for whatever reason, I can't see the chat on my screen here. We'll move on to my next slide, actually the last slide too. I'll just talk a little bit more about what's offered and who you can contact. If you think of something when we get down here, we'll still have a chance to ask any questions. But ESI Consultants, we provide the technical supportive services all over the state of Illinois. So it doesn't matter, you're in District 1, District 9, you can be in Chicago, you can be in Cairo, you can be in Danville, you can be in the Quad Cities. Quincy, it doesn't matter. Whatever there, we have people in all areas that can help you. Probably your best bet is to first contact myself. You can see my name up there, Dave Clark. Got my email address, got an office number, cell number. I'll be honest, the cell is probably the easiest way to get a hold of me, because we are all over the place all the time. Up in District 1, I got Vinu Patel. He works out of the Resource Center quite a bit. Kevin Hayes works kind of more out of our Naperville office area. Brant Zentner also more out of the Naperville office area, but they can travel to wherever they need to go to meet with you in the district resource centers or wherever might be needed. Tina is more of a consultant type person. She's very familiar with the consultant EPAS system that IDOT has, working with pre-qualification, and that type of thing. If you got any questions about that, call me. I'm going to probably refer you to Tina, but also feel free to call her directly if you like, or email her. And, we all stay in very good connections there. Kevin Hayes also is very helpful when it comes to on the consultant side. But Venu, Kevin, and Brant also, they all help with contractors with their field issues, estimating, whatever it might be. Also, we have subcontractors that work with us up in districts 1 through 3. We have Oneida Engineering Services. Don Miller pretty much heads that up. But, contact me first. I'll figure out what your issue is and who might be best to help you. With Don, there's Laura Finley and Todd Matheson that also help him. Down in districts 4 through 6, we have Herman and Associates are located in the Peoria area. Alicia is listed there. She does have a couple other staff that help her with this. But here again, I would say first contact me. I'll get a hold of Alicia, and either her or one of her associates will reach out to you. Down in the southern part of the state, District 7 through 9, EFK Mullins is sub to us on that. John Scheibel and Jeff Church are the two main people that help with that. If any of you are from that area, you might recognize those names. Longtime IDOT employees, since now retired, working for EFK Mullen. John Scheibel pretty much heads that up for them. And here again, I would say, reach out to me first. And if that's something that I think it's best to have John help you with, or Jeff, I will get a hold of them and one of them will reach out to you. But anyhow, that's all of our contact information. It's part of this workshop. There will be an evaluation we'd love for you to fill out. Give us input. Hopefully this was very helpful to you. I say it, but we didn't get into a tremendous lot of detail, but we're trying to give you a picture of what it's going to take for you to work with IDOT and some of the tools that you're going to need to be able to work with them. Next week, as I mentioned earlier, we're going to delve into a handful of things, just a lot deeper: mobilization, extra work, material allowances, traffic control. So I think you'll find that these are very helpful. And then as the year progresses in their workshop series that they provide, starting basically in November through March, you're going to find a lot of other workshops that'll go into a lot more detail in a lot of these things and give you a lot of help in terms of dealing and working with IDOT. But in the meantime, too, again, do not hesitate to reach out to us on a technical issue. If it's a management thing and you call, I'll probably refer you to somebody and have them get in connection with you. But otherwise, we'll try to find somebody here that can help you wherever area you're in on whatever issue you may be having. There's also certification people out there too. So if you're wanting to get certified in different additional areas with IDOT, we will also refer you to them, and they'll be able to help you. So I'll shut up for a second, see if there's any questions out there. Joelle, if you see any in the chat, please let me know. Let's see. All right, I was able to get to the chat now. I don't see if there's anybody that's asked any questions. So I appreciate you taking the time to listen today. I hope you found this to be helpful. Again, I will share my screen back so you can see the information for contacting us. If you have any questions afterwards, feel free to happen to it. Disappeared on me. Let me try that again. It disappeared. I don't know, it's not wanting to share for whatever reason. But hopefully you got that. We will be sending out a copy of the presentation. And there's also a recording that IDOT's doing, and you'll be getting a copy of that also later. So with that, thank you very much for participating today, and look forward to working with all of you in the future.